truth to power, truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking truth to power. Truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking truth to truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking truth to power. Truth. Myself. Information, and lions. Welcome. Truth to power.
This is Information Man and Lion's Den. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. This is Information Man. We're live on all social media. We're on the Google Hangout, YouTube tonight, Instagram, Facebook. We're going to try to get this thing going tonight. Let me see, maybe a month or so ago or two ago, folks, myself and Lions Den did a YouTube on why African Americans are moving to Africa from America, particularly moving to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya. But in this case tonight, we're going to definitely feature Ghana and what that means. What is that construct? What is going on? Now, we know a lot of things are going on in American society right now as it relates to what Black folks go through. And I mentioned this before in our first YouTube video stating back to Africa. And the question is, the issues that Black people deal with in America, is it really worth it? We deal with racism. We deal with being profiled. We deal with what's going on right now is the Black identity extremist propaganda that's being pushed by the FBI, stating that Black people are somehow terrorist groups. Yet today in the news, there's reports that Black folks are getting packages of bombs placed on their doorsteps. Even our Latino brothers are getting bombs placed on their doorstep. And I wonder what that is and what that could be. I'm going to go over to my man Lions Den and see if he can touch on that story a little bit, just very shortly, because we want to get into what the real topic is. And that's about Black folks taking our behinds back to the motherland of Africa and revitalizing ourselves and what that means. There's some pros and cons to it, but I'm going to try to get into it. Maybe a little bit we're going to get into the cost. How much does it cost to fly to a country in Africa like Ghana, for example? How much does it cost for a 2-bedroom to rent an apartment, hotels, transportation? We're going to get a little bit in that. I'm going to play a sound bite, a few of my sound bites. One of them is from a brother named Walter Ray. Now, Walter Ray has a YouTube channel on YouTube, of course. So check him out. Walter Ray is an older brother who knows everything there is to know about Ghana because he's been going there for years. He has a great YouTube channel where he explains costs. He talks about, I haven't even gotten deeper. I got to get deeper and deeper into his content because he talks about healthcare in Ghana, all the pros and cons of living there, the culture, the customs. They have a term called Bruno, I think, or something like that. If you are a fair-skinned Black person, you're going to hear that in some of our sound bites. If you are a fair-skinned Black person, sometimes they're going to think that you could be white or something, right? But he kind of talks about what that means when you're a fair-skinned Black person in Africa. And I was listening to another brother tonight, and his name escapes me, but he's from, I think he's Nigerian, and he's from Sierra Leone. And he talks about how being a Black American, having a Black American mother versus an African father who's from the continent, how there's the pros and cons to that, and understanding the culture and how it operates. And so he talks about how he's treated when he goes back home. And for the most part, Black people, we're treated very well there. But of course, because we come from America, Africans may have a certain different view of us, you know, because of being in American society. That view can be that, well, we're in America, we got it made. Now, I had a brother tonight who sent me a message from YouTube who said he's from Ghana. And he said he didn't realize a lot of what Black people go through in this country until he moved here. And he got a chance to get a little taste for himself what Black people go through in America. So that's why it's important for us to go to the continent, to rub shoulders with our Black people and Black people in Africa, so that they can know who we are as Black people and not have these stereotypes of who we are. Okay, because they have a lot of stereotypes of who they think we are as Black people in this country we call North America, which we call America. So Africans have, and Brother Walter Ray talked about this, that Africans have a lot of exposure to the Europeans because the Europeans from Europe have been coming into Africa, colonialism, coming over into Africa for years. So they kind of have an understanding of the European, whereas Black people, we need to go over there and really embrace and show our African brothers and sisters over there who we really are, and as we learn who they really are. And one of the things when you travel, get yourself a passport. Very important. When you travel, brothers and sisters, you got to leave the American. That's what I want to say. The American attitude. You got to leave that in America. You got to leave the arrogance of being an American when you travel in America. Go over to other countries and humble yourself. Learn and ingratiate yourself into the culture if you can. Very important. Lion's Den, I'm coming over to you, brother. What do you have to say on our interesting topic tonight? Speak it plain, brother.
Well, hello everybody, and thank you guys for tuning in for our show tonight, and wherever you are on YouTube, and thank you for tuning in. Like I said previously, do you know that Ghana is the first African American to open its doors to the people of African descent, including American citizens? When it comes to according to this, it says this is from the African Renewal Online. It says that Ghana is the first African country to open its doors to people of African descent for all over the world, including the United States. But bureaucracy takes a toll from Effin Dury. And this is another statement from the Atlanta Black Star, which you guys need to check out. Says that Ghana currency offers to the right of abode program, which allows people of African descent to gain permanent residency. According to the Ghana Immigration Act of 2000, the concept of right to abode under immigration law is that person having the right of abode shall be free to live and to come and go from the country without letting of hindrance. So, it seems to me that Ghana is the first and only African country as of right now that would accept people from African descent around the world into their culture, to their country. So, your thoughts.
My thoughts are twofold, brother. From what I've gathered, listening to some of the context tonight of how the brothers in Ghana treat us, I'm going to play a clip from Walter Ray. I think it's very important that, once again, as Black people, we're so culturally conditioned in American society to see Black as inferior and white as superior. And we underestimate, undervalue, and marginalize Black people. Now, I'm saying this because I'm going to keep repeating it because it's just a reality, okay?
Right.
And we will do the same thing about Africa. Now, remember, most of us, I'm going to repeat this, and I might have said this when we did the first, this is part 2 of the first Black people moving to Africa series. I'm going to say this again. A lot of us have been culturally conditioned, especially if you're a Generation Xer, a baby boomer, and beyond. We've been culturally conditioned by the Tarzan movies that portray Africa as this jungle, this wild continent, the dark continent. And historically, keep this in mind, historically, that white Europeans engaged along with the rest of the world, the French, America, all these different countries went to war. That's what World War I was about. It was about who was going to control the resources in the continent of Africa. That's why there was a World War I. You had the French over there. Of course, you have the Dutch, the Belgians over there. The British are everywhere. They seem to plant their flag everywhere they go. So you've had the British over there, all this colonialism, which is why when you look at a country like South Africa today, where you have the president saying that he wants, and I'm with the president of South Africa 100% when he says he wants land redistribution, land that was stolen from African people in South Africa. He wants that land given back, sort of in the spirit of Mugabe, in Zimbabwe, where he decided to take the land from the whites because the whites in Africa are sitting on land that they stole originally and took ravaged, just as the land was stolen from the native people of America society today. So I know I've kind of gone off a little shift there, but let me play the audio by my man, Walter Ray. It's a little bit of about an 8-minute audio, but he makes some really good points. So let's hear what my man had to say.
Tip. This is just a short talk about what Africans think about Black Americans, those of us who have been to the continent, who live in Africa, who have visited Africa, and it's probably the same thing for the ones here. I've heard more than once, too many times really, for years. I go back and forth to Ghana, and people still say, I hear they don't like us over there. Africans don't like us. But in all honesty, I was hearing this in the 1970s when I was a young man. People thinking that Africans didn't like Black Americans. I never felt that way. Long before I ever traveled to Africa, I just didn't get that impression. I'm not around many Africans, hadn't been around many, didn't know any personally, went to school with some, and I never got the impression that they were in favor or didn't like us. So this is an answer to that. How do they accept us in Ghana? That's the only place I've been. I've been in Ethiopia also, but I just stick with Ghana for right now. How do they accept Black Americans? Well, they look at us as being foreigners, for real. When they see me, they call me O'Bruni. Not as much as they used to, and I'm just talking about strangers, not the people that know me personally. O'Bruni means white man. You can look at me and tell I'm not a white man, but to Africans that haven't traveled, they don't know. They don't say it out of anger. They don't say it with animosity. It's not like the N-word that white folks may use here. No, they just say it because they see me, they see white man, for some reason. And not only that, brothers who are darker, Black Americans, a partner of mine had been way before I went. He's quite a few shades darker than me. Never would be expected to be called a white man until he got to Africa. And he's the one that told me before I went, they called him O'Bruni, and how mad it made him. But you get used to it, and it's not done with malice intent. You can have conversations with people and enlighten them and educate them to the degree that you can, and to the degree that they will listen. But that's one of the things we have to deal with when we go to Ghana. So how do they treat us? They treat us pretty well, actually. Look at us like foreigners. We're different, most of them don't know our background, our history, what we've been through. Living in America, they know nothing about it. Most of them that haven't traveled, they know whites, interestingly enough, and maybe even more comfortable with them than they are with us, oftentimes, because whites have been there for the last 500 years. They never stop going and coming. They don't tell you about it, but they're always in Africa doing business, and they doing good things too, building hospitals and schools and philanthropy. And generally speaking, it's the decent ones to go, so the ones that are there have a certain relationship and opinion about them. But they don't really know us, Black Americans and Blacks from the diaspora, until we come, and it's not nearly as many of us there for as long as whites have been there. So generally speaking, they like us, they accept us, nothing negative for the most part. They see you as somebody who's an opportunity, really. If you're from America, you got money. They assume you got wealth and power and prestige, really, and that's how they treat you. I felt like James Brown and Michael Jackson all rolled up in one the first time I went in 2003 from the way people treated me. Nothing negative, nothing bad. Everybody wants to get to know you. They want to know about you. They want to know where you're from. And honestly, in my experience, when they realize I'm a Black American, it tenders up their heart. They really feel good about that, because they can't look at you and tell where you're from sometimes, although they know you're not an African for real, no matter how much you think you're one. Because Africa is not about color. It's about culture more than color. So when you go to Africa, it's not like open arms based on the brotherhood, the Black thing, because in Africa, Black don't mean nothing, because everybody's Black. So brotherhood is based on more than being Black. It's not based on the color. It's based on clan. It's based on tribe. It's based on family. It's based on history. It's based on how long you've known somebody. The brotherhood thing, just like among us in Black America, we say this is my brother, this is my sister, because you've been knowing them for a long time, have good relationships with them. It's like that in Africa, not just based on color. But I say this too, to my brothers and my sisters here. How many of us know any Africans in the Black American community? And those of us who come across Africans, how do we welcome and greet them? How do we welcome them here? They're a stranger in a strange land, and we're the ones at home. But how many of us roll out the red carpet or even take the time to get to introduce yourself and try to figure out who these people are and make them feel comfortable? On the other hand, in Africa, it's been my experience personally. When they realize you're Black American, they say, welcome home, brother. This is your home too. A number of them have said that to me through the years, and they still do. Welcome home. They make you feel like you're a part of something. They extend the hand of friendship. It's up to the one at home who's supposed to lay out the welcome, not the one who's visiting to barge in and force his way in. So in Ghana, and I'm sure it's the same in other places in Africa, when they realize who you are and what you are, then they welcome you. And also about this white man thing, they look at us like that because not just the skin color, but you come in the European traditions of dress most of the time, name most of the time, culture most of the time, if not all the time, religion most of the time. So we come in the Western image, not just on skin color, but based on how we dress, how we talk, how we walk. It's not African, and no matter how much we think we are African, want to be African, we are African because it's in our DNA, but we've been gone for a long time. So they look at you and they recognize that you not the same as them, and they're not the same as each other. There's thousands of different African tribes, languages, and groups. So it's not just based on color. That's the main thing I wanted to say. Let me see. And they may not know, yeah. Some of them are more progressive. Some of them have traveled. Some of them have been outside, a little bit more open-minded, a little bit more progressive, and know some of the things that others don't know. But like I said, they do want to get to know you. They do look at it like it's an advantage and an opportunity to get to know you. It's about the money, oftentimes. So Africa, people are decent. People are people. Some will like you, some won't. Just like here. How many of us don't like each other? That's the Black man's issue. Seems like to me, it's the same way in Africa. Amongst Africans, not just Africans towards Black Americans. Some of us in Black America, we got all kind of issues and problems with each other, and then we expect the Africans to have open arms and just welcome us like nobody's business. Some of them will, some of them won't. It's just an individual thing. But they don't have any animus towards you. They don't have any hostility towards you because you're a Black American. That's not true. Some of us seem to believe that false idea, the ones who've never been to Africa primarily, and that's most of us. And we got some funny ideas about who people are and what they think about us. And then I've come to understand from traveling and, back and forth, being in and out of here, a lot of people's reaction to us, really, it ain't based on really is based on us, our behavior. You hear me? They coming from societies and civilizations that are civilized pretty much, primarily. It could have war and famine and all kind of stuff, but they got respect for elders, they got traditions, they have histories, they have certain ways of acting and behaving. And when they see us coming with the pants down, the loud talking, the cursing, the disrespect for elders, and women cursing out their children and this kind of stuff, whether they're Chinese or Korean or Nigerian or Guatemalan or Haitian or whoever, you know, they tend to back up and they not want to be bothered with that. So some of this thing about Black American and the way people look at us here in America is based on the way we behave and act and talk or food, for real. That's some hardcore truth, but it's the real truth. So Africans pretty much, in my experience, especially in Ghana, well received. They're good to Black Americans. They love us for real. And, you know, if you have an opportunity to go, you should go. That's your brother, that's your sister. You can help educate and they can educate you. It's a two-way street. Yeah. Ghana, Africa.
Woo! So he said a lot of things in that audio, Lion's Den, and we're going to examine a few things that he said. One of the things that he said that was definitely telling, I must say, my brother, is that he said in Africa, and I've heard the other brother that I was trying to mention, they have more of a class system. Okay. So it's more about class and tribal. It's not, because he made a good point. He said they got everybody in the country's Black. So this whole thing, you know, in America, the Black people in America, we have this whole thing that centers us around being Black. Okay. And that's because of race. That's because of, Jim Crow, segregation, the plantation slavery, the shackle slavery. So we kind of hold to this thing, this color thing. And a lot of this stuff came from the Europeans that pushed this whole color thing. Whereas the Africans, they don't really get caught up in the color. They are more caught up in class, poor, rich, and they're caught up more so in tribal traditions. He said it. It's more about culture, tribal culture, tribal traditions. There's some class, systems in Africa. You got class systems in America. So they get more caught up over there. So all this stuff about, well, you're my brother, it's more about the tribal systems. Okay. And he made a good point. Another thing that he said, Lions, and I want to get your opinion on that and what I just said. He talked about a lot of times when they see us, he said that term, Bruno, which is a term, if you're like a very fair-skinned Black person, they'll see you sometimes as white. They may see you as white.
Right.
But he also says the reason why Africans may see us that way is because of the way we dress. Our dress is very American, very Eurocentric. We go over there and we got the American clothing on, right? So we already from Jump Street come off as if we're foreigners because we come from America with a American swag, American attitude, the way we dress, move, and act and talk. One of the other things he said that I thought was really telling is that African culture, once again, is about I am because we are. It's a communal system, a communal culture of working together, respect for your elders, respect for your griots. The griots are the ones who hand down the oral tradition of the culture, which is what's missing here in America. We don't have any griots anymore. We've got a lot of buffoons. We've got a lot of Black brothers out here that are very buffoonish to get on social media. As we talk tonight, you got Black folks running their mouth off on social media, talking very badly about Minister Louis Farrakhan, Elijah Muhammad. Now, you may have your differences politically, ideology differences, but I just don't think that Black folks should be airing out dirty laundry about Black leaders on social media. You don't see Jewish people doing that talking about their culture like a dog. You don't see other groups, ethnic groups, getting on social media, talking about each other like dogs. If they do have a problem, they deal with it behind closed doors. Malcolm X stated, and I think some of the black folks need to take heed to this. Malcolm X stated that you should never air public dirty laundry, your private laundry, private business in the public discourse, putting it out in public, your dirty laundry. And so we should not be doing that, because when we speak against our leaders or people that are been seen as leaders by other people, even though you may not agree with them, you're playing right into the hands of our enemies, those that are trying to destroy us. Okay, just like Farrakhan said in his speech at Savior's Day, that the government has had a plan to destroy us, and we know it's true. I mean, it was J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI who said he would not allow there to be a Messiah figure for black folks, whether it be Malcolm X, Dr. King, Marcus Garvey, okay, Elijah Muhammad, any of these leaders, I.D.B. Wells, or Shirley Chisholm, who was the first black woman to run for president. Not no Hillary Clinton. Give y'all a little bit of history there, okay? Medgar Evers, Philip A. Randolph. Let me see, Adam Clayton Powell. Woo, I love me some Adam Clayton Powell. Okay, real black folks doing real stuff. Fannie Lou Hamer, who was famous about you can pray until you faint. But if you don't get up and do something, God is not going to lay it in your hands. I'm quoting Fannie Lou Hamer, baby. I knows my history. I'm not a millennial. I am a Generation Xer. And I was born at a time when I was able to be exposed to some of this kind of stuff, these kind of folks. I'm not a lost millennial. Knows my history. Now, with that said, brother, what is your opinions before we go into the next clip about what I've said, or what some of the things brother Walter Ray, who has a YouTube channel, so check him out. Walter Ray gives you everything you need to know about traveling to Africa, particularly Ghana. What do you have to say, Lion's Den, as I've gone on with that speech, that rant, my brother?
I agree with you on that. First of all, what is Ghana? I felt that we do need to understand and our hair over there to understand of each other, of our own people. Because I've been doing some research on my own, and there's some people already was saying some people here in America don't want to go to Africa. They claim that they don't know anything about, not born in Africa. But it's important for people to understand that we need to find our own roots. We do need to find what's important over there. Yes, it's going to be conditioning in Africa. However, know each other, love each other, and respect each other, things will grow on our own. And I'm going to give you an examples info with respect to the stipulations in moving to Ghana if African Americans decided to move over there. It says from the Ghanaian residency programs does have some stipulations. Black people looking to resettle in Ghana must be at least 18 years old or showing good character, financially independent, and not being convicted of a criminal offense and sentenced to imprisonment. So there's nations in moving to Ghana, and the thing of it is that as long as you don't have a criminal financially stable, then everything will be good. So
Lion's Den, I think your signal cut out, brother. Can't hear you.
Okay.
Can you repeat what you were saying?
Okay,
Once again, when We are talking real stuff. The powers that be want to play around with the technology. But if we was on here talking about booty popping, booty shaking, nonsense, we would get high definition audio, high definition clarity. Brother, do me a favor. Say something. Can you repeat what you were saying? Let's see if your audio is working better now. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Repeat a few things that you said over again because the audio was tripping. You know how this is.
Yeah.
YouTube don't want us getting this knowledge out to Black folks and to the folks out there in speaker.com and Facebook Live and Instagram.
Okay. What I was saying was, we as a culture, we as Black need to basically, when we move to Africa, going to be some cultural conditions. However, we also, and I know a lot of African Americans here over there because they claim that, well, I'm not born in Africa. I'm always born in America. We have ancestry in Africa. We need to learn our roots. We need to learn our cultures. That's important. And what I was referring to of the stipulations on moving to Ghana is that you must be 18 years old. You must have good character, financially stable, not be convicted of any crime within the next 12 months or more. So my point is that we all need to focus on where, which is Ghana, Cameroon, Sierra Leone, Nigeria. We all need to learn those cultures so we can all teach our children and our children's children where we're coming from. So your thoughts.
I'm going to give it to you, brother. I could hear what you were saying, but there was a little interference, but I could hear, and I hope everybody out there can hear. Let me once again respectfully recognize everybody out there in speaker.com. We're on speaker.com, which is a podcasting international and national system that I'm on here, that we're on here. So I want to thank everybody out there who's either listening tonight live or who is going to listen to this in the morning, nighttime, evening, wherever you are in the world. Once again, I want to remind everybody out there in YouTube, thank you for your support. If you are listening or listening to this later on after it replays, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Information Man Show. For everybody out there in Facebook, same thing. Definitely subscribe because we appreciate the support. Anything you can do. Now I know I'm getting my preacher on right now.
Somebody help me say, yeah. Every hour. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to thee.
So subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you. With that said, Lions Den, we're going to get back into it. We're going to get serious. I want to give you a thunderous everything that you were saying, brother. Now, what I was going to say to you, brother, is that those are the code of conduct, because they have a code of conduct in Africa and places like Ghana. You want people over there who don't have criminal background. You want people over there who got themselves together. So if you're going to travel, get your passport, folks. I want to say, particularly the Black folks, definitely have to get your passport. Now, I've got a passport. I was digging in my drawer over here on my desk, and I can't find, it's in here, and I should have took it out in advance so I could show y'all my passport. But get your passport, travel, see the world, go to different places. Remember, most Black people that were removed from the continent of Africa due to the triangular slave trade arrived into this part of the world through South America, El Salvador, Brazil. That is the gateway in which most Black folks arrived from the continent in that triangular slave trade. I think about 4% of Black people were dropped off in America. And sometimes living in America as Black people, we can have an arrogance. We think that we are the be all, the end all of Blackness because we're in America and we've got all these sort of fringe benefits, so we think. The reality is that the Black diaspora of the world is bigger than America. Black folks are all over South America, Central America. We're all over parts of Europe. And I'm going to quote my man, Keith Newsom, who has a great YouTube channel. Black people are everywhere in this planet because we're from everywhere of this planet. We've brought civilization to this dusty planet. Without us, there would be nothing. We are Black people. We operate as the African people of the continent of Africa, all these beautiful countries there. We operate on a high frequency neuromelanin. Okay? The universe was created by melanin, which if you look at the Big Bang theories or there's the spiritual, and there's the scientific. And it was the black hole, which is made of melanin, that is responsible for creating. And that is God-given now. On the religious side of things, it's God-given. It's the power of God. It's God-given. It is energy. Go study physics, how melanin works, how it reacts. It's called dark matter. You cannot have light without darkness. You cannot have color without darkness, which is why all things that are on this planet in terms of human comes from us. Because Black men, Black people, Black women and men, we can reproduce ourselves and we have strong genes in our body based on that dark matter consciousness, which we come from. So I had to get on my scientific soapbox there, Lion's Den. Lion's Den, do you have anything else? I want to bring up this. I'm going to bring up this about Ghana in terms of the price of housing there, the price of living. I'm going to get into those kind of issues. But let me, before I go on.
Hi, I'm Barack Obama. You're listening to Lion's Den and Information Man.
That's right. So let me go on with another clip for folks to listen to that can open up one's mind. And here it goes.
Everyone. So this is a conversation that is very hot for their audience. They love this topic. And so everyone wanted to chime in with why people might want to move to the continent of Africa. This is just one of the tweets we got. This is from Edmund, who says, it's about identity. Events like the slave trade and colonial rule almost wiped away that African identity. And thank goodness people are once again asking deep questions about that identity. Kaylin, I want to go to you with that idea, talking about the draw of what made you want to leave the US and move to Namibia. I have a picture here on my laptop that I pulled up of you not too long ago, you teaching English. Talk to us about that experience and what made it so enticing for you.
But basically by the time I was about 23, 24 years old, I personally just became kind of tired and bored of America. And I just really fell in love with the energy and vibrancy that came with Black nations, especially after visiting Barbados, which is where I have matrilineal lineage. And so I basically decided that, I wanted to experience life on the African continent. And so I started doing research on the internet about ways to move to Africa. And I found out that one of the easiest ways was through volunteer teaching. And so I applied to an American organization, and that's how I ended up in Namibia. And, you know, the rest is history. I ended up getting married to a Namibian. I'm now a mother here. But really just for me, it was, you know, I personally was kind of unsatisfied with American life. And I've always felt a connection just to the continent and to my African ancestry and just to the energy of Black nations. And so it was really attractive, and it's been an intoxicating experience.
So you mentioned that I had a chuckle at tired and bored of living in America, and the American context really.
So you can hear the statement there. She said she got bored. This is a sister that got over to Ghana, I think it was Ghana, through a teaching exchange where you can go over there. So that's another thing, Lions Den. Black people, we are very lucky because we have access to education, right? And we can use our educational, as I would say, currency. We're able to use our educational currency to get employment in some of these countries. And she's teaching English, okay? And she decided to stay. You know, she said, hey, I don't want to deal with the hustle and the bustle of American society and all the things that we deal with. I mean, no society is perfect. Okay, let me correct this. We're not saying that Africa as a continent or the different countries there are perfect. Yes, there's issues. Yes, there's intertribal warfare. Yes, there have been some famine in some countries. Yes, there have been some there are areas in Africa where you don't have maybe running water, you don't have electricity, you don't have the modern conveniences and that we have here in America. Yes, there are countries like that. Yes, there are places like that. But I was talking to a brother at my job who is from Ghana, Lions Den, and I wanted to bring him on the show, but he was a little shy about coming on the show to talk about this issue. And but he told me, I noticed when I was growing up, a lot of the brothers that come from Africa, when they go to school, they come here and they take care of business. I mean, they're going to school, they're getting that education, they're getting that degree, and then they're going back to their countries to build and lay infrastructure to help. And I noticed that while we sometimes as Black folks go to school and we take our education for granted, we go there, we're playing around, we're coming to class late. I'm not saying all Black folks that are American. I'm just saying from my experience, I have observed how the African brothers and sisters will come here with one goal in mind, and they'll go into position and into science. They'll go into, they'll go into engineering. They'll go into occupations that are about building something, solving problems, which is what we are really here for, to build and solve problems. Okay. And he told me that's true. Right. I also asked him, I said, I noticed that a lot of Africans, people from the continent of Africa who come over to the United States, I'm generalizing here, they tend to come from sort of pretty well-off families. And he said, yes, his family has money and, various things, various opportunities, resources, let's just say that. And so, and then there's a Nigerian brother at my job that I'm going to be talking to. So, and I noticed that they all got different personalities. He said he's more reserved. He doesn't like to talk a lot. So that was one of the reasons why he was a little nervous about coming on here. I even wanted to get a soundbite on the brother, but he was like, so.
Right.
But he's a very humble individual. He treats me very well. He travels quite a bit. And as you heard my man Walter Ray say, that they do like us over there. Once they get to know us, like anything in life, you got to get to know people, right? But I think one of the things that cannot be missing in this equation is the fact that Africa, and we said it in the first video, it's an open opportunity to buy property, land, to open up businesses, because the Europeans are going over there, as Brother Walter Ray said, and the Africans are familiar with them because they come over there and they're creating business. They're making money. Black folks need to come over and take advantage of that opportunity to create businesses as well as live there. And if we're not going to live there, create a business there, create that exchange, that cooperative economics, if possible. Hell, if I could do it, if I got some change, investment, very important. One of the things that he said that I did not completely agree with is when he talked about white people coming over there mainly to do good things and that they're good. I disagree with that. I think that maybe that's what he witnessed when he was in Ghana, but for the most part, Europeans have always had a history when it comes to the continent of Africa of being occupiers, okay, exploiting the natural minerals. We talked about in the Black Panther movie, they were using vibranium as the source of their energy and their technology. Guess what? Africa has coltan. Coltan is what they need to run your computers, which allows us to do what we're doing right now with technology, your cell phones, your computers. Nothing would operate in this world without the minerals that come out of the continent of Africa. All source of energy and power is coming out of that continent. That is the vibranium that you see in the Black Panther movie. Vibranium, which is nothing but another source of melanin and dark matter energies, which we come from as Black people. Dark matter consciousness, baby. So I'm going to keep it real with you, Lions Den, with that type of, those are some of the realities, brother. Those are some of the realities. Do you have anything before we get into another clip, brother? You want to talk about the continent? Anything you want to add before I add something, brother? Go right ahead.
Yeah, I've been doing some research about Ghana. I watched some YouTube videos of the music, of the culture, and basically it was really interesting that the same music that we hear, they've been listening to over there, type of sound, which of course I like. But the point is that we basically, and this is so important, we need to learn our history. We need to learn, and for those of you that want to know your history, there's DNA tests you can take. There's ancestry DNA. There's 123andMe. There's other DNA out where you're originally from. And I think I took that 2 weeks ago. So hopefully I will within the next 2 or 3 more weeks. Info was that this is so important so people would know where you're coming from. And you on one thing that, once we go over there, we have to learn of our ancestry, because you never know where you're coming from and what roots we have. So important thing is that to figure out who we are, where we're coming from. In Black America still don't know, because I'm Native American, I'm American, but we still don't know what our origin is from. So that's also important, that we need to find out ways to do it, take DNA tests and figure it out, because you never know what roots or you have.
I agree with you. Take a DNA test. I think there's a DNA test that I think is more accurate and better. Some of the stuff that you see, like ancestry.com, some of that stuff is proper. Some of that stuff is a little phony, folks. There's a thing called Tribe. I think my man Kevin Newsom was telling me there's a thing called Tribe DNA. And he was suggesting that you try that. I think it's called tribal DNA. And they give you a more accurate, unbiased type of DNA test to find out where you are. We got to keep in mind, just like in the movie Black Panther, with a young brother Killmonger, he felt lost, he felt betrayed. A lot of us as Black people in America, some of us, I'm not going to say all, but some of us feel that they don't care about us over there in Africa. They left us behind. They sold us into slavery. They turned their backs on us. Okay. But I think that's not the attitude to have. I think we have to have an open mind to understanding that that's his history. has occurred. It's an unfortunate history. But remember, everything that has happened as far as slavery was an economic system. It had an economic drive to it. It had an economic distinction. Okay, the triangular slave trade was the system that the whole world was operating off of, which is why you've got Boston, you've got cities like New York, all these cities that are near harbors. They all owe their development to the triangular slave trade, which created these cities, because you had to have ports, you had to have people that went into business to build clothing for the slaves, to build ships, you had to have people to do accounting. Okay, there was accounting for how many slaves are sold. Okay, that's where you get all these different companies. A lot of these companies today are still around that are rich today because of the money that was made off of slavery. I would argue that a lot of your families, like the Rockefellers, PJ Morgan, all these different companies that you have today that come from old money, a lot of that old money was made by the profit of slavery, the slavery of Black folks. So for us, we have to look at alternatives. I would say first go visit one of these beautiful countries in Africa. Visit a country, see how you like it, get a feel for the land, lay of the land. Get your mind out of these Tarzan movies. Get your mind off of the stereotypes that we have been culturally conditioned in American society as the way we see the continent of Africa. There's always been that divide between, Africans don't like African Americans, right? So you'll have, and African Americans don't like African people from the continent of Africa. Okay, there's been this sort of divide or rip. We've got to get out of that type of ideology of thinking, because that is what our enemies want us to do. They want to divide and conquer us. That's how you destroy people, by divide and conquer. I mean, when you look at COINTELPRO, that's how the Black Panther Party was destroyed, divide and conquer. People want to say that Farrakhan was responsible for Malcolm X's death. You got my man Dick Gregory, who debunks that, because he talks about how it was the FBI that was watching Malcolm X for years and years. They had files and tapes on him everywhere he went. Okay, even Malcolm said he knew that they were bugging him and watching him, right? You had Dr. Martin Luther King that was being bugged and watched and everything like that. The FBI, the CIA, the FBI have been known for creating espionage, okay? Creating rifts, creating coups. They have a history of destroying civilizations, okay? Creating all sort of confusion. And out of that confusion, they will make us think that it was, Farrakhan Farrakhan admitted that he was 17 years old. He was hot and angry that Malcolm X would talk against the minister, the minister, Elijah Muhammad. And a lot of them looked up to him like, yeah, so they were disappointed. So he admits that he created an atmosphere that brought about an issue around Malcolm X assassination or killing by the FBI. And then Dick Gregory said that the individual Black men who shot their guns at Malcolm X, that after the aftermath of that, they found out that the bullets that shot him did not come from their gun. It came from another hidden gun. And a lot of people think that the FBI, the FBI had used those Black men as a diversion when they actually had snipers ready to take him out. So if you go on YouTube, go do your research, Dick Gregory had a conversation with Malcolm X before he left us and told him, Malcolm, I think they're going to take you out. And Malcolm wanted him to come there. And he said, Malcolm and Adam Clayton Powell, they all decided that they weren't going to be there at that ballroom because they felt something was going to happen. And Dick Gregory was in Chicago, so he wasn't even able to get there to stop it. Okay, but he said he had a conversation with him on the phone, and he said Malcolm knew that something was not right that day. Okay, so there's a lot more to it than just a Farrakhan putting a blame on Farrakhan, you see? And that's what our enemies want us to do, to deflect from reality. And our enemies also want us to look at our African brothers and sisters as enemies, as they're not us. We don't like them. We want nothing to do with them. They want us to be separate from them. They don't want us going over to Africa and having dialogue with our brothers and sisters, having kinship, having interaction so that they can understand who we are better and not what they're getting from these buffoon reality shows, buffoonery, and the corporate media of America that feeds them all this garbage. You know, you got people over there who think that we're all rich, that we're living large because they see people like Jay-Z, Beyonce, they see these black athletes. That's a false narrative of who we are. We're not just athletes and singers and entertainers. That's not just us. So we, as Black people, need to make the connection with our ancestry in Africa, Black folks over in Africa. We need to make that first step. You got Europeans over there trying to take it all over. Hell, you got the Chinese over there that are trying to buy up. They're buying up land. They're having babies with the women over there. They're totally infiltrating. The Chinese are infiltrating. Okay, Europeans have been infiltrating for decades, over 500 years, as Brother Walter Ray was saying. So we gotta watch that. We gotta be aware of these realities, okay? Because it's a thunderous thing. Lions Den, before I go to you, brother, I want to give a shout out to our moderator. Miss Jet is in the YouTube chat. I want to thank you for being here. We don't have a lot of people in the YouTube chat right now. We got a lot of folks in the Facebook live chat. We probably got a lot of people out there listening on speaker.com. And I want to thank them. We got a sister right here. What is this sister's name? I want to write to her. Thank you, Hollow Moon. How you doing, sister? Thank you for supporting us and what we're doing. Let me write you. Thank you. This is the beauty of technology. I catch your show as well, sister, on the speaker.com. I'm bad with names, or I would say your name, but I don't want to make a mistake and say your name incorrectly. But I see you. I thank you for listening. And over time you build up, and you build up what you're doing, and you just got to keep doing and grinding what you're doing. Lions Den, I'm gonna bring it over to you, brother. Before I go into the next clip, do you have anything else that you would like to add? I know I said a mouthful there.
Yeah, I have a brother. I call him my brother. And we talk all the time. And he and I both, have a conversation about Ghana and what's it like over there. And he's just like, he said he will welcome me with open arms. He was like, he would welcome all Black Americans with open arms. I have another friend who lives in America she's originally from Ghana. Her family lives in Ghana. Exact same thing. And it was really making me interesting in going to Ghana because, keep in mind info that I always want to go to Africa. I always want to go to the continent of Africa. And my vacation was always going to Ghana. And I was thinking about have a residency over there. But the point is that people should understand, as Black people need to learn our culture, because some of us had children, great grandchildren, and we have to teach them where our cultures are. And so that's mainly important, that you need to get our passports. We need to go to Ghana. We need to go to Nigeria, Sierra Leone, all African places, Ethiopia, and other African places, South Africa. We always need to go. That's important, right? That's very important.
Lions Den, I can't agree, brother. I gotta give you a clap for what you said, brother. Definitely got to give you a clap for what you said, brother. You're definitely on point. Let me check this. The sister said, "Hi there. Thank you for the support, sister. I'm gonna always support anybody that's doing anything positive." Okay. Now your last name is Hollow Moon. See, I'm terrible with the pronunciation, but I'll figure it out. I'll thank you. This is tough. We're doing a late night show on a Monday. I know it's a lot of folks are getting ready for work or getting their rest on. So, you don't have a lot of people that come out on these kind of nights, but that's why myself and Lions Den, we try to do some weekend shows, try to kind of mix it in as best we can. But we know that people listen to a lot of this kind of content on the repeat. So I want to thank you once again. Lions Den, I'm about to go into the next clip, my brother. And I hope everybody enjoys this next clip. What you're going to hear, this is going further into people who live. These are Black women that live in Ghana. They're going to give you their perspective. It's a very beautiful clip, by the way. So I'm going to get ready to play that, and I hope everybody enjoys.
Like a foreigner here, because you are a foreigner here. They still consider me to be white.
The Ghanaian government is encouraging people of African descent to return home to Ghana, an opportunity 3,000 Americans have taken. We spoke with 3 Black women who were born and raised in America and immigrated to Ghana about their experience.
I used to just get totally fed up with everything being somehow connected to race in America. I always found it oppressive, personally. And so I wanted to get away from that. And that didn't quite happen because when you're too fair, they say you're white.
They'll say a Bruni, like they'll call me a Bruni. I think that's how you say it, where they're saying like white person.
When I go to the village, these people have never been out of the village and done many things. Immediately, little children are calling me Yabu, that means white person.
Some things are pushed on you that, okay, you can afford it. You have to be able to afford it. You may say, no, I don't want that. Yes, you do. Yes. For Ghanaians, the U.S. is the second most common destination to immigrate to, which makes the idea of leaving America all the more puzzling to some.
It's difficult to convince people that there's a life outside the United States.
There's not only opportunity in America, you can also come here and get the same opportunities or even better.
America has many problems, and one of them is the breakdown of the family unit. It's more evident to a person like me because I can see how important the strength of the family is here.
I feel it's hard to be a parent there because there's so many influence from everywhere. There's kind of like you have no control.
Concept came from Senegal.
Africa is a piece of these women's past. Now Ghana is a welcome part of their futures.
There's a real strong sense of tradition that I think African Americans can never have.
I think I felt the connection after I had children because it's like, this is where my children are going to actually grow up.
Certain things that I go, oh, this is why we do it. It's in the blood. It's just passed down. They're very hospitable. It has more of a meaning because most people don't have as much as you have. There's this air of colorfulness or life that I think within both communities, we like it.
Good morning. People say, good morning. How are you? They really actually want to know, how are you?
I believe it's so important to try to find that connectedness. If you want to get that reconnectedness, I think, which is very important, that this is a good place to be able to come to do that.
That's right. Information is power, baby. I want to thank everybody that's out here listening to the program tonight. We've got a few people that are watching out there in YouTube. We got a lot of people checking us out on the Facebook Live. Want to appreciate that. And of course, we got speaker.com podcasting out there. Wonderful. Lions Den, I'm going to get into the cost of flying to particularly Ghana, Africa. And I got to give a lot of respect to, once again, my man, Walter Ray. He really puts it down. You got to check out his YouTube channel, folks. But let me read a few things. If you're thinking about how much would it cost to fly to Africa from the United States, once you get your black butt a passport. And I was also told by a sister who wrote me on YouTube, who lives in Africa off and on. She said there are some parts of Africa where you don't need a visa. You know how you have those visas when you want to live there? You got the passport, but you get the visa, I believe, when you plan to live there long term. If I'm not mistaken. And if I'm mistaken, someone can correct me, Facebook Live or the chat here. But I think she was telling me where she was at. She didn't need the visa to be able to stay there. She could just literally live there and make her way in the culture. If I'm correct. Okay, the cost of living in Ghana, West Africa. First of all, if you're in the Midwest, it'll cost you, the biggest cost is your plane ticket. Okay, so the biggest cost if you're in the Midwest, it's about $1,200 round trip plane ticket. If you plan to go round trip. If you plan to go for the one to go to stay, you don't need a round trip, might be cheaper. Okay. If you're in the East Coast or the southern parts like Atlanta, Florida, East Coast, where you are, DC area, Lions Den, everybody out there listening, it'll cost you about $864 plane flight. Okay. Those are rough estimates. Okay. Now, when you get there and you visit, keep in mind, being in America, the American dollar will probably or most likely get you a longer, it'll get you a longer stretch for your money. Okay. You can live pretty decently. So my brother Walter Ray was stating in my research that in Ghana, you can live in a decent hotel for $35 a day. $35 to $25 is the littlest. And plus, when you go to these kind of countries, you don't want to spend most of your time in no hotel room. You want to be out and about with the people, exploring, your new surroundings and everything. So $35, $25 for a decent room. Now, if you want to, and we got the money, black folks, because all of us went out and we supported the Black Panther movie, and we put that movie over $1 billion in sales. My God. Okay. Now, if you want to rent housing in Ghana, particularly Ghana, and you want to rent an apartment or a house, what they require you to do in some of these countries in Africa, but particularly Ghana, is that they want you to pay in advance for like a year or two. So for example, if you plan to live there for a year or 2 years, or you plan to go back and forth throughout the course of the year, they want you to pay that all up front. Okay. And you can rent long term. Okay. A 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, row house. Okay. Like a row house. Okay. Where you have a yard, you're living on, like what this brother was talking about, Walter Ray was talking about, he was living on a compound. So he had a row house, he had a yard with fruit trees around it. They had a little bit of security there. They had electric wire for safety, they had, and he said that he felt very comfortable. He said that then he said, if you want to buy, he said and guess how much it cost him to rent long-term a 2-bedroom apartment? $110. $110 a month. That's right. $110 a month. Okay. $110 a month. So if you plan to live, let's say in Ghana, for example, and you want to find some decent housing in Ghana, and you're going to stay for about a year, or you plan to go there throughout the whole year, you want to go $110 times what, 12, and you get your calculation, okay, for how much that's going to cost you. And guess what, Black people? Some of us probably spend more than what that'll be in a year, okay, on buffoonery, okay, buffoonery. So that's $110 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, okay. Now, oh, that's a 2-bedroom. That turns out he went with a. This was a house. Let me correct myself. That was a house for $110 a month, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. All right, got security, got a nice yard out there. This is what he was able to find. So a lot of people think that Africa has no infrastructure, that it's just lions and tigers. I hate that term tiger because tigers come from places like Asia. I think maybe places like Asia, for example. Maybe South America actually has more jungle than Africa. Africa is not a complete jungle as a continent, but that's how it's been portrayed. Like, oh, they don't have anything. And so you'll have some, not all, some Black folks in America who won't want to go there because they think that it's what they see in these damn Tarzan movies that portray it in a very distasteful light. Okay. So you've got, for example, now we got a 2-bedroom that you're going to rent. This is the 2-bedroom to rent that you could rent for a year or 2 years. Guess how much it costs? 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Let me correct myself. Yeah, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, $55 a month, all inclusive, baby. So you can rent an apartment, 2-bedroom. And he said that he actually had a 2-bedroom apartment that had a nice yard, fruit trees again. And then he decided he wanted to move into a 2-bedroom apartment that was closer to the downtown area of Ghana. It wasn't as nice, he said, but it was closer to the people that he had befriended. He had developed relationships with. So it was just fine and dandy. Now, check this out. He said he upgraded to a 5-bedroom apartment, 5 bedrooms, 4-bath. This is a brother, Walter Ray on YouTube, who's been going to Ghana for years. Okay. And he said that he paid, let's see, $220 a month for a 5-bedroom house, 4 baths. All right. Unbelievable. He said, now check this out. The utilities, for those of y'all want to know, well, how much would the utilities cost if I was to go to Ghana or go somewhere in Africa? Guess what? He said the utilities, the water, the electricity, all the basic utilities are between $10 and $15 and $20 a month. Water, all that stuff, a month. That's cheap. With the American, I'm going to tell you right now, if I was to, I work for the state. If I was to retire off my pension money, okay, off my pension money alone. Remember the movie with Eddie Murphy coming to America, Lion's Den?
Yeah.
I could live, and I'm going to say it to the highest of the mountain, baby. I could live like a Black prince. I could live like a prince in Africa. That's right.
Somebody help me say, yeah, every hour I need thee.
I can live like a Black prince in Africa in my retirement. Yes, I can. And I've been thinking about it, Lion's Den, because I live in California, the most expensive place in the world to live. And a lot of people, when they retire, they either move to another state, they go to Texas, they go to other places. Some people even leave the country because I could live literally, and I know I was goofing around there, folks. You're just having a little fun, but I'm serious. Don't get me wrong. Literally, I could live like a prince in Ghana, for example, with these prices, brother. Now, of course, you got inflation, you got all these different things. And then we wonder why Europeans are all over Africa, why the Chinese are all over Africa, the colonialism that's going on there, because of all the advantages that you could take over. Okay? Black people, we're going there because we want to find out, we're trying to figure out who we are, where we come from, because we've been so lost in the North American society we call America. We're a lost tribe, baby. And so we've been trying to figure out, who are we? You know, some of us are trying to say that we're, Hebrew Israelites. Some of us are saying, well, we're not from Africa. We're from America. We're the original. No, we've been all over. We're from all over the world, man. We're the original extraterrestrials. We're from all over the world. Okay. Some of us say, well, my great-great-grandmother had that long hair. I'm Indian. I hate that term Indian because that's not their names. Use their name, then use their native tongue. Okay. Like myself, my mom did research. I'm Chickasaw. My ancestor was a freeman, the freeman native brothers who intermix with native. Chickasaw native people come from what we call Arkansas, where you're from, Lions Den, Arkansas. So that's one of my lineage, right? But once again, Black people, we're trying to find who we are. So we looking in the mirrors, we're doing the DNA testing. And the DNA testing is telling us how we coming from Europe and all this kind of stuff. But brother, you got to watch that DNA testing, because there's an agenda to take us as far away from Africa so that we take those tests. And those tests tell us that we got all this European blood in us to make us want to identify with Europeans more than our own people. There's a technology to these DNA tests. Now, just keep that in mind. Unless you got a real scientific laboratory that then took your blood, okay, and you can see what they do in that laboratory, you really don't know what they're telling you on these tests, right? Because remember, we live in American society, a capitalist society, and they want to make money. So they could throw anything on your little DNA records just to make you happy and to push this agenda to get you far away from Africa as possible and make you want to identify with everything else other than where you originally come from of this planet. Well, we originally come from all over this planet because they're digging up bones. Every time they dig up bones, they find a Black person, whether it be in Israel, whether it be in Europe. They found out, once again, I'm going to remind everybody that they found that Africans were in Europe before the so-called Europeans got there. Can I say an amen to that?
Somebody help me say, yeah, every hour.
Every hour. That's right. Every hour that they dig, they're going to find them Black bones. I even stated to you, because of that dark matter consciousness that we were created by in space, God-given, that if they were to go to Mars, they want to go to Mars in 2024, 25. I wouldn't be surprised when they go to Mars if they get to digging and on Mars. I'm going to come closer and closer and closer. They might, let me whisper this, they might find Black bones on Mars and some of these planets as they explore in the future. Okay? Because Black folks are everywhere. We're everywhere. Let me repeat that. We're everywhere. With that said, Lions Den, and I went on with a mantra there. You have anything else you wanna say, brother?
Well, I find it interesting about the prices, because info in where you are in California and where I am in the DMV, is expensive to live, and the prices, and I agree with you, the prices there in Ghana, especially in Accra. Accra is the capital city of Ghana. It's at least a 2-bedroom apartment, at least like 100, I think 100 something a month, if I'm not mistaken. It proves that there's better life elsewhere. elsewhere. That each and every time it's better in life, that we as Black people knows where we need to go. And some, even though people's like, well, I don't know, I was born here in America, have any African roots, you just need to do some research on it. Some people research, and the problem, that's why we don't know who. And so it's important for everybody to understand that a lot of research and find out who we really are, as we really are going to be lost. And what we're going to tell our children, our grandchildren. Oh, we were just born here. Then they're going to ask them, well, or dad or grandma, do we have where we coming from? This info, or that we have our natural roots. I don't know if I think I told you earlier, info. We as Black people are afraid to go to Africa. They don't know our roots. They don't even know what part of Africa that we're from. And explain to the reporter that that's the problem. We don't know. We don't know. We still have to find out our roots. So it's very to understand people need to find out where we're coming from. That's extremely important, because Americans, they already know that they got Italian roots. Chinese America, they already know they got Chinese roots. African people need to know our own roots, so that we can go to Africa as we please. So the point is, info, let's coming from, let's know our roots, and let's go to Africa and learn our culture.
Okay, brother, very good. I don't know, once again, when we're talking real talk, they're messing around with stuff. I could hear you. There was some technical, technology stuff going on. And I'm going to say once again that I think it's just that the powers that be don't want us talking constructive conversation. They want us bickering. They want us to be on this YouTube bickering about and condemning our Black leaders. I looked at YouTube today, and you've got this, like I said, you got this whole issue around Farrakhan, and you got prominent Black folks on the YouTube going back and forth with each other. And that's really what I think we got to get away from, because there are people on these platforms that like seeing us bickering with each other, being at each other's throat, having disagreement and discourse. And I'm going to go with my man, Neely Fuller Jr. Neely Fuller Jr. always states in his compensatory system, in his word, thoughts, and actions book, he says, Black people, if we're not going to have constructive conversation with one another, we should stay away from each other. If it's going to be constructive conversation that's going to lead to building, to creating something, then let it happen. But if you are around other Black people, or people in general, no matter what their race is, and the conversation is leading to non-constructive, that does not lead to solving problems and issues, get the hell away from them. Do not have conversation, because it leads to destructiveness. Okay? Now, Brother Walter, at the end of his audio, he stated that in Ghana, in Africa, they have tradition, family traditions, respect for your elders, the griot, the oral tradition. They have respect for the family. And that some of the problems with Black people in America, with this whole, and I'm generalizing here, I'm not saying all Black people, but this whole issue around wearing your pants below your behind, like you've got a bowel movement. I don't know what Black woman would want a man like that, okay? That's not dignified. This whole thug culture, the whole ratchet music, this whole loud talk and jive talk nonsense that you see on the television screen. When we go to these countries, we can't bring that American, what I would call, I'm just going to say it straight up. We got to get rid of the Negroized behavior. We can't bring that Negroized behavior to the continent of Africa. Don't leave that Negro plantation behavior here in the States. Leave it here. And if you are living in the States, get the Negroized behavior out of your system. Digest that, get it out, spit it out of your system. Get away from it. Act dignified, pull your pants up, okay? Carry yourself like a man. I mean, we're far gone from the days of our grandfathers and our great-grandfathers who wore suits and ties, hats on their head, carried themselves dignified. They would say, boy, you ain't going out the house dressed like that. I remember when I was a kid, my mother wouldn't let me walk out the house looking like a buffoon. But these kids walk out the house dressed anything, man, anything. And at the same time, Black masculinity is being attacked in this country. You can't even be a Black man in this country and speak up and talk up and be strong and carry yourself. You know, you've got all this weird stuff going on. People wearing skirts and stuff. Like, what's going on here, man? What is happening to, it's an attack, right? And Africa, you can't bring all that buffoonery to the continent of Africa. I'm not saying that you don't have people who live in Africa who can be buffoonish themselves. Hell, it's all over the place. It comes $1, a dime a dozen. But we have to keep in mind, these are the images that the powers that be, the Europeans, they push of Black people. I mean, come on, let's be honest, Black folks in America, we say it to ourselves all the time, that when people come from other countries, we say it to ourselves, they must be told when they get here not to mess with Black people. Stay away from us. We hear that. We talk about it amongst ourselves. We get that. We got to ask ourselves, where does that come from? Where does that stereotype come from? Why is it that we even have to say that out of our mouths? Is there some truth to it? Is there the reality that the way we behave, the way we project who we are in our culture can rub other people the right way or the wrong way? Okay. It just depends on what they're into as well. So we gotta get back to a code of conduct, a code of how we behave. We should not be talking about our leaders in public, using public, public systems like the platforms that we're on right now. We should keep that private. We should talk about what we want to do to build our communities. In the spirit of the Black Panther Party, they were about trying to rebuild their community. They had a 10-point plan. They had the breakfast plan, that they had the breakfast program where they went into the community feeding children, and that came along with education. Okay, we have to get back to that. If you are a part of an organization or not, join an organization. I don't care if it's a fraternity. I don't care if it's the Prince Mason Hall Masons. I don't care if a person is a Prince Hall Masons. Black Masons are not the same as white Masons. The Prince Hall Masons come out of an African tradition. Their history is not clandestine. Okay, they're recognized in Europe. Okay, unlike some of the Masons that are non-white in America. Okay, they bring something to the table. I don't care if you're a member of Jack and Jill. Okay, I'm bringing out the old school stuff. I don't care if you're a member of the Boule. Okay, Alpha, which I'm a member of, Delta, aka Sigma. Okay, Omega, Iota, Phi Theta. You right? Kappa Alpha Psi. These organizations, no matter how you think about them, they're all doing something to try to make our community better. They're all operating in an African tradition that I am because we are. Remember that, people. We are because I am, and I am because we are. That's the African tradition. We raise the child in the community. It takes everyone to raise that child. And that is very African for Black people in America, because when you look at our family structures, we include everyone. Our aunties, our aunts, our cousins, our great-grandfather. We include people who are not even blood related to us, but we say, you family too. That's very African. We do not operate off of a Eurocentric system of family, which is the nuclear family, which consists of what? The father, the mother, 2 kids, and a dog in a house. No. Black people, African people, our system runs in a rhythm. That rhythm of family is spicy. It's everyone. It's the community. We see everyone as family, connected to us, interconnectedness. Why? Because we are in tune with our dark matter consciousness, the pineal gland, which is the third eye, soaked with melanin in it, which is the neuromelanin. Our connection to the universe, okay, on a higher level consciousness, which is why we could build great monuments that Europeans today cannot even figure out how it was designed with their computer technology. We go beyond that. Get into your meditation, eating well, vibrating. We got to get into that type of spirituality. I ain't talking about religion. I'm not talking about whether you're a Muslim, Israel Hebrewite, Black Israel Hebrewite, or whether you are Christian, Baptist. Those are the sort of things that religion separate us. Spirituality brings us together. Okay. Spirituality and religion are two different things. That's what we need to be connecting with. And I think taking a trip to Africa, getting your passport, traveling there can reconnect us with our ancestry, reconnect us with who we are. Okay. Don't laugh at celebrating Kwanzaa, even though Kwanzaa is a African-American made concept created by my man Karinga, who I studied his history book, Introduction to Black Studies, when I was getting my minor in Black Studies at San Francisco State University. I have a minor degree in Black Studies, but I'm a rehab therapist in mental health, been in mental health for 16 years. This is important for our mental health, to connect with our ancestry. And that's what Kwanzaa does. When you lay out the corn, when you lay out all the different fruits on the table that represent, the corn represents the children in the family. When you put out a picture of your grandmother, grandfather, that's to give recognition to the ancestors, to the elders that came before us. You give homage to the elders. You have the ceremonial libations, and you say, Ashe, what's going on? Karumba. That's another word for, what's going on. When we get into these ceremonies, that is getting us closer and closer to our ancestry, getting us closer to our dark matter consciousness, getting us closer to our ancestors, where we come from, okay? And that's why we should not be shy and deny our opportunities to travel to Africa, to see our people there, to connect with them. They may think that we're different. Maybe our skin tone makes them think that we're white. Maybe we think that we're different because we got a different swagger the way we move. But keep in mind, we have to learn, continue to learn and connect with where we come from and who we are, even though we're in American society. An American society that doesn't give one plum nickel about us. Okay? Don't give us one. You got Donald Trump bragging about Black unemployment. Hell, the only time Black people have never been unemployed, where there was no unemployment, is when we were in slavery. Okay. And for that employment, we did not get a dime. We got a whip on our back. We got oppression on our head, and our women raped and screwed over badly. And this country owes us a big time reparation, which they ain't going to give us. Now, I'm not hating on the DACA. While the Democrats are focusing on DACA, they still owe Black people of America reparations. They still owe us a debt that they've never paid. And we're the only people in this country who have laws on the book that was written in our behalf. The civil rights movement, all the laws that are on the book were originally written for us, that we and our ancestors fought for. And so we should not give up what we have fought for so easily, because we want to say that people who came over here illegally and had kids should just be given the franchise just like that, when Black people have poured out sweat, blood for over 500 years. Unlike any other group of people in this country of color that are melanated, we are the only people that have fought in every war this country has had. From the Revolutionary War, you had the man, what's the brother, Christopher Attucks, who was the first black man, first person to die in the Revolutionary War. And as my man Khalid Muhammad said, the Negro should have died because he fought on the wrong side. He fought for the empowerment and the freedom of Europeans fleeing from the Great Brink of Britain. Okay. And when they got their freedom from Great Britain, what did they do to black people in America, Lions Den? What did they do to us?
As a military person, they disrespected us. They call it they just spit in our faces. And we fought our wars. We want them to do. We fought alongside with the white Americans, and still we've been disrespected.
But bigger than that, though, brother. Bigger that what you're saying is correcto mendo. But bigger than that is the fact that we fought in all these wars, but we fought in the Revolutionary War, which is what gave Europeans that left and fled from Europe the Independence Day that we celebrate in this country, called what? 4th of July, or as I would call it, 4th of their lie, okay? Because the minute that Europeans got their independence from Great Britain, which was a bank of Great Britain, putting sanctions on them with the taxation without representation, the minute they got their independence is the minute that they enslaved black folks. They put us in slavery. So that Declaration of Independence isn't worth the hemp that it's written on, because you know the Declaration of Independence in this country is written on hemp, marijuana. Okay, so it's not worth the paper that it's written on, because black people never have fully gotten all benefits. Okay, although we fought in every war this country's ever had, and we fought in World War I, we fought in World War II, and historically black men have fought in these wars thinking that if we fight in these wars and show that we can be heroic, that we can be patriotic, that they'll finally treat us fairly in America, that they will finally treat us as equal. And we have found out after all these years that that is not the case, that they're going to treat us. They have never treated us fairly, which is why you've got African Americans who are considering or who have gone to Africa to make a new life for themselves in these developing countries in Africa. It is the reality that we must understand why this kind of stuff is happening. With that said, Lions Den, before we come to a crescendo on tonight's show, do you have anything you say? Because I'm going to play this last piece before you finish what you have to say.
My info, and this is a personal moment for myself, is that I know a guy, I call him my brother. His name is Cornelius. I mean, he and I have been speaking to each other almost every day. And for people to understand that what's inside a person, that you got to know someone to get. When you go to these countries, you have to get to know a person to be accepted. And it's been time for us to basically figure out who we are. Because again, we don't know who we are. You know, we was born and raised here, but we really do not know who we are. So my final thoughts for tonight is, everybody get your passport, travel Africa. It doesn't matter if it's Ethiopia, Central African Republic, Ghana, Africa, part of Africa. Go there, experience it over there. If you lived it, and that's all I have to say, info.
Thank you, Lions Den. Once again, brother, there is a little bit of technical difficulty when you're speaking. I can hear you. There's a little bit of, once again, when you're talking real talk, they're going to mess with us. They're going to play around with our systems. I want to add this before I conclude with our last clip tonight. I meant to say something about more. If you're wondering about gas, how much it costs to drive or get around in places like Ghana, the gas is a little bit high. So the gas is high. It's like $4. In transportation, they have what they call their little taxi cars or their little Ubers. I think they're called choo-choos or something like that. They're between 50 cents, $1, and $3, depending on where you're traveling in the country. So it's very economical. Hell, if you were retired or you had some nice change on you, you could go over there. And I told you, like I said, brother, you could live like a black prince. Okay. Okay. Talk about the fictional country of Rwanda. You could live like a black prince if your wallet is right. And we as black people have no excuses because we make more money per capita, I'm sure, than they do in the continent of Africa. Although we do have our issues here in America, and God knows we do have a bunch of them, brother. I'm going to leave with that statement there and play this last clip to put a crescendo on our show tonight. This is the sister Lions Den. When we did our first YouTube video on this, and everybody out there listening in Facebook Live, YouTube, and speaker.com, when we did our first YouTube video on this issue, the sister who did the article about why are African Americans moving to Africa, this is just fitting that I end the show with her being the last person to make statements. This is the sister. You're gonna hear her name on the show on YouTube, speaking her truth about why she stays in Africa and where she feels. So let me go into the clip. I hope this is the right clip.
So, Mohammed, I want to go to you with that idea. I pulled up on my screen here an article about you, headlined "Why Some African Americans Are Moving to Africa." This is from our colleague Azad Isa on the Al Jazeera English site. And he decided to move to Ghana for a one-year fellowship in 2013, and then stayed. What was behind that decision?
Well, actually, I did graduate school in Ghana in 2003. But I didn't feel like it was time for me to move yet. You know, there were things, lots of things weren't in place. But I came back 10 years later in 2013. I had an amazing experience. There was so much development that had happened in that time that I was like, now is the time. I applied for a fellowship. It was a one-year fellowship. I figured that would give me enough time to, you know, get the lay of the land, see how much I liked it. And at the end of 1 year, I was like, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. And I've been here since then.
Information is power.
Yes, information is power. I gotta repeat that. I want to thank everybody out there that's been listening to us tonight and speaker.com. I want to thank all the folks out there that's been supportive. I want to thank everybody out there in Facebook Live that's checking us out, and those that are watching that may not be in the chat room on the YouTube page that are watching. Thank you. Those that will be watching this on the repeat, you know, when they find this on the page. I want to thank you for watching, and I want to remind everybody, definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel at Information Man Show. Information Man Show, that's all three words, capital I, capital M, and capital S, Information Man Show. Everybody out there in the Facebook, don't let me go preacher on you, because I need you to subscribe to the show and hit the bell so that you know every time we are doing a show. Very, very important. Lions Den, brother, I want to thank you tonight. You have put it where the ghosts can get it. Once again, I think we did a decent job touching on some of the issues. I always feel like there's more that can be said, but hell, we could do a part 3 to this series. So as we get more and more information, and because it's always good to talk about something that's positive and get out of the rut of negativity. So with that said, we're going to end the show tonight. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Miss Jet, who's been moderating our chat room tonight. Thank you for supporting us, being there. We hope to see you soon again. It's late, so a lot of people are not up to be in the chat on YouTube tonight, but there are people watching that are not in the chat. But we're going to try to do some shows a little bit earlier so that we can get people. Maybe like this would have been good to do on a Saturday night. We'd have more people, but we're just going to keep grinding and doing what we're doing. Lions Den, any last words before I end the show with our music, brother? Because it's late and we've been doing it, brother.
Yeah, I like to thank Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Instagram Live, and Twitter Live, joining us and everything. We're also like to thank Spreaker. Also, thank you, Spreaker Radio, also for hearing us. And our final thoughts for tonight: don't let the masters tell you what to do. Keep fighting, stay woke, and always keep grinding. And that's all I have to say, Info.
Thank you, brother. And I say, get your passport, travel, see the world, get your butts to Africa when you have an opportunity and your money is right. And I'm also going to say, check out. Go to Brazil, check out El Salvador, Brazil. It's the most African, most blackest place in Brazil next to Rio, because the people in Brazil, those are black people. Okay. No doubt about it. So with that said, folks, we're going to put a crescendo on tonight. I want to thank everybody out there and thank you and go in peace.
Truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. Risky the truth to power. Truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. Risky the truth to power. Truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. Risky the truth to power. Myself. Information, and lions. Welcome. Truth to power.
This is Information Man and Lion's Den. Welcome.
Information is